Mr. Manser appears in the courtroom today to prove that he spent 5 years in prison because he failed to pay child support for the defendant's child. The crazy thing is that it was never proven that he was the biological father of the child. The defendant, Ms. Sayre, claims that she can prove that he is the father of her son. Well, that case starts off like this.
You spent 5 years in prison for failing to pay child support for the defendant, Ms. Sayre's son, Dylan.
That's right.
And it was never proven that you are his biological father.
One thing we know is that he is never going to forget those 12 hours of his life. But if he claims that the child was never proven to be his, and he did spend 5 years in a prison cell, Ms. Sayre is going to be in some serious trouble.
I don't care what your version was. I was far from a one-night stand.
Living across the street from each other?
Far from a one-night stand.
My wife's gonna be upset 'cause I live
Like Judge Lauren said, it's really that simple. Mr. Manser explains in the courtroom that all he had with Ms. Sayre was nothing but a one-night stand. Ms. Sayre claims differently and said that they kicked it in bed more than once.
And so
And
you
did
showed
that,
up
huh?
for court, and what
No,
happened?
I wasn't
No, he
able
didn't
to. I
show
wasn't
up.
able to show up court. I was completely on the other side of the state court, and I was named the natural father by default.
And then what happened?
And then I was charged criminally.
Yo, 8 years is a lot. Well, let's thank God that Judge Lauren's show exists. Mr. Manser admits that he never made it to the court, and therefore he was automatically named the father of the child. 3 years after he refused to pay child support, the police came to pick him up.
I paid child support from that day until just February of last year when I lost
Only
my job.
because they garnished your wages.
Absolutely, that's what they do. And I actually asked my public defender, where's the proof? I've yet to see proof that the child's mine.
Haha, Mr. Manser definitely hated his time in prison. He explains that it's unreasonable and very cruel that he was sentenced to 5 years in prison all because he missed a court date. What hurts the most is the fact that he doesn't even know if he is the father.
You understand that now, that in this country, you got to show up court.
Well,
if you got to walk there,
You're right,
you
you're
need to be there.
Okay.
Thank goodness he knows that all the pain he went through was a result of his stubbornness. Apparently, once the court asks you to be present, you don't have a choice but to be present. And Mr. Manser has learned that the hard way.
Why?
Because I have had a DNA test done, and I have the results right here. Would you like a
Wasn't I
copy of
supposed
it?
Well, she's worked for lab pretty much for the last 20 years. Those I'd
Hold on.
question the validity of the results. I mean, she'd get those anyway.
Hold on 1 second. Jerome,
Phew, if there's anything we know, Judge Lauren is going to have a serious issue getting to the bottom of this case. Mr. Manser says that he has proof that shows there was no DNA done. Ms. Sayre also says that she has proof that a DNA test was done. Let's see what they have.
Plasma with 16-gauge needles had nothing to do with DNA.
I'm sure that, when you're in a business, you know other people
now what's
that's in the business.
interesting to me is that as I go through this evidence
I was
and
at school
I
at the
get
time, by the
to
way.
Oops, that's definitely going to be an issue. Judge Lauren goes through Ms. Sayre's evidence, and apparently the aspect that has father's details appears to be blank. Trust me, everyone's eyebrows are raised at this point.
Mr. Manser, let me say this to you. What I do believe that's missing in all of this evidence is I don't see any information relating to the collection of the sample from Mr. Manser.
Right.
Nothing.
That's exactly why it seems suspicious. Ms. Sayre claims to have had a DNA test done, and it showed that he was 99.67 the father. The problem now is, what was used to administer the test? I mean, Mr. Manser was not around her at the time.
Tell us, has he been a father to you? And if so, has he been a good one?
Absolutely. He's been a great father to me. We've had our ups and downs as a father-son relationship should be, but
We're best friends.
we really are.
We're best friends.
And Chris, you've met Dylan.
His son sure has his back in this situation. Mr. Manser's Don tells the judge that he has been an amazing father to him. He even said that he has also been an amazing father to Ms. Sayre's son, and they have felt like brothers since they met.
I want to know about your relationship with your father.
I feel I don't know him that well.
We don't know each other.
Go ahead, son.
I love Chris though. We've spent a lot of time together.
Your brother.
Yep.
We're gonna be brothers no matter what happens after today.
Well, he clearly doesn't like Mr. Manser with that statement. The kid says he loves Mr. Manser's son, but is not certain that he wants Mr. Manser as his father. Well, let's see what the results have in stock for us.
Mr. Manser, you are not
Oh, God.
his father.
Oh, man.
Ms. Rachel is desperate to determine the father of her 4-year-old daughter. She confesses that a man signed her daughter's birth certificate, but another man happens to be the one running the finances. Mr. Harris, the defendant, however, claims that he is paying child support for a child he knows is not his. It starts like this.
Ms. Rochelle, you are desperate to determine the biological father of your 4-year-old daughter, Jasmine. You confess that one man signed your daughter's birth certificate, yet another man is paying child support. Now, Mr. Harris, you're the potential father who is paying support for a child you believe is not yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Haha, looks like this was a case of love at first sight. Mr. Harris and his wife are furious that Mr. Harris had to spend 2 months in jail for a child he knows doesn't belong to him. Could someone be lying? Jail time is no joke.
He had said that we could be together, so therefore he had me thinking we were together,
No,
but
it was just a hookup. That's all it was.
All right, so Mr. Harris, you claim this was not a relationship.
It's not.
But you do admit to having a sexual relationship with Miss Rochelle.
I do.
And so at some point, you found out you were pregnant.
yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's usually how it works, Ms. Rachel. She claims that Mr. Harris gave her the idea or made her believe that they were in a relationship, but Mr. Harris says it was just a hookup. Summary is that they both agree to having sex.
Did you contact Mr. Harris?
No, I did not.
You didn't. Now let me ask you this. Did you contact anybody else?
I contacted the other guy.
And so did this other man sign the birth certificate when the baby was born?
Yes, he did.
Oh, Jerome, let me see that.
Wow, wow, wow. So she's the reason they are even in this mess to begin with. Ms. Rachel confesses and says that when she found out she was pregnant, she told the other guy he was the father because she knew that Mr. Harris wouldn't stand up to his responsibilities.
Let me hear a little bit more about how you ended up paying child support for a child when you're not listed as the father, but you paying child support. How did that happen?
I really
You
don't
missed
know.
your appointment for your DNA test.
Yeah, that's how it happened. I missed my DNA appointment. I rescheduled it because I didn't have a way to get there.
And there we go again with another man failing to show up when the court wants them to. Well, he has learned the hard way, that's for sure. Mr. Harris admits to missing his DNA appointment, and that's why he was named the father by default.
And also, while I was there, I met a person of us, mutual friends, that told me that she's out leaving the child out at home. While she's going out and party, she'll drop the child off on other people and stuff like that. And then, and he also told me that it's a possibility I could not be the father.
Oh my goodness. So she actually isn't sure who the father of her child is. Apparently, she was sleeping with both Mr. Harris and the other guy when the child was being conceived. I mean, why then is she saying Mr. Harris is the father when she let the other guy sign the papers?
When she first started contacting me on his phone, it was on Father's Day last year, June 15th. That's the day after he went to jail. She kept on writing, Happy Father's Day, love Jasmine. And I was like, who in the heck is this person? And I never seen.
Because you never heard anything about it.
I never heard anything about her
and
at
you're
all.
his wife.
Yeah, well, I wasn't then, but we were dating at the time.
You were dating.
Even his wife finds it difficult to understand what's going on. Mr. Harris's wife says that she can't tell if her husband is the father because the child looks like Mr. Harris and the other guy at the same time.
I've only seen the child maybe once, and that's when I was living actually in the state of Kentucky.
The other guy said that he would step up and take care of her, so therefore, I'm letting him take care of her.
And him pay child support too. So you got 2 men.
But see, the thing is that I want him to take care of his daughter.
That just doesn't make any sense. She wants Mr. Harris to be in the child's life after having the other guy build a bond and take care of the child for this long? That's just crazy. Oh well, Judge Lauren is ready to announce the results.
Mr. Harris, you are the father.
I don't want to deal with her for 14 more years. She harasses us on the phone. She calls us all the time.
Jerome, get me my violin.
I just
so I can play a tune to this.
I just don't understand.
Are you really sitting up there?
Ms. Epstein admits that since she found out that she was adopted, she has spent her entire life misunderstood and out of place. 27 years after the adoption, she says that there's a chance she might have found her actual father, and she meets him for the very first time today in the courtroom. Here is how the case begins.
Ms. Epstein, you admit that since finding out you were adopted, you've spent your entire life feeling misunderstood and out of place. Now, 27 years after your adoption, you say you may have found your birth father.
That has to be the cutest thing I have ever seen on paternity court. They hug as if they've known each other all their lives. It must be one hell of a search for Ms. Epstein. For her sake, I hope the results make her happy today.
When I was born, I was adopted. I was adopted before birth. I was raised by a very loving, very caring family, who I'm still very close with today. And everything was great as a child. And then at around teenager age, I started becoming very rebellious, refused to go to school, refused to listen to my parents. Anything they said I wouldn't do.
Ouch, that had to have hurt. Looks like the fact that she did not grow up with her actual parents made her childhood a living hell. No one can honestly love you better than the people who brought you into the world, and Ms. Epstein is a living example of that.
My boyfriend there, we left and we went to Oregon together. I had a child, we got married, and then I want to say a year or so later, I ended up being homeless again, and I adopted both of my children out to a wonderful family.
Damn, it's almost as if she's living her nightmare all over again. She says that after getting married to her boyfriend, she became homeless a year later, and she had to give her kids up for adoption. That would honestly break my heart if I were in her shoes.
Robertson, I have to ask you, knowing that this beautiful young woman might be your daughter, how does it hear, just finding out all that she's been through?
Tears me up, hurts me inside that she went through so much, because if she was with me, it would have never happened.
And that's how you know a good man. Mr. Robertson says that his heart is broken, and he feels bad that she had to go through all of that. He says that if he were to be in the picture, she would have never gone through so much trauma while growing up.
A one-night thing, and it was at a party. And to be honest with you, I can't remember if I was drunk that time or if I'm just getting old, but I really don't remember it too good. But I guess we did, and I was right about then, I was getting custody of my 6 kids, which I've raised all by myself.
Wow, raising 8 children could not have been an easy job, but if he did it so well, you can be sure that he is hell of a father, and a good one at that. It's honestly sad that Ms. Epstein could not be part of all the love he has to give. Mr. Robertson also says that he never even knew Ms. Epstein existed.
Facebooked me about a year ago and still hadn't told me. I was friends with her brother. I was friends with her brother for all my life, and he was on Facebook, and I asked him, why didn't you tell me I had a daughter? He said, I didn't know until a few months ago. We've got a good relationship now, her and I do, over the phone. I think she looks a lot like the family.
Such a beautiful thing to hear. But hold on a second. Ms. Epstein's mother or brother never told Mr. Robertson about his daughter? Geez, one would honestly think they were trying to hide Ms. Epstein from him. It's good that they now have a lovely relationship.
Pregnant at the grocery store or whatever, and he always doubted it, so it's not like he had no idea that I was around or that I existed. He never asked my mom about it.
Mr. Robertson, did you admit this to Miss Epstein?
I told her that me and her mother worked in the same place.
There's no lie there. Ms. Epstein is right, knowing fully well that he was in a sexual relationship with her mother. The moment he noticed that she was pregnant, he could have asked if he was the father of the baby at the time.
Got in touch with your birth mother, and you asked for Mr. Robertson's name. Did she give it to you willingly? How did that happen?
She forgot his name. Then she told me, she asked her brother what his name was, and he said it was Paul Robertson. His name is not Paul Robertson, it's Robertson.
That is actually hilarious. I can't believe she just said she's friends with every Paul Robertson on Facebook. That just goes to show you that she has been looking for her father all her life. That's sad if we're being honest.
I don't think I look anything like him or any of his family.
You don't?
Not at all.
Mr. Robertson, are you concerned this all is not true?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I do feel concerned that it might not be, because the fact is I was never told, and nobody's ever brought it up to me.
Ms. Epstein says that she feels she doesn't look anything like Mr. Robertson or any of his family members. Mr. Robertson, on the other hand, says that he is scared that the results might say that he is not her father. Well, let's see what the results are going to say about their fears and doubts.
That Mr. Robertson is her father.
Thank you.
I know that has to be wonderful to hear. And I'll tell you this, when we reconnect and reconcile families after all of these years, it's beautiful in this moment.
Mr. Redmond says that he currently owes more than $10,000 in child support for the defendant's 2 teenage daughters, whom he claims do not belong to him. Ms. Peterson, the defendant, says that she is 100% certain that both girls belong to Mr. Redmond. The case starts off like this.
Mr. Redmond, you currently owe more than $10,000 in child support for the defendant's 2 teenage daughters, LaQuandria Redmond and Kaisha Redmond, who you say are not yours. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Damn, owing that amount of money is insane. Mr. Redmond begins by telling the judge that he has been taking care of the girls and has also been going to jail because of the huge debt he has not settled on child support. I wonder how he found himself in such a situation.
I never cheated on her.
She's untrustworthy, Your Honor. I've caught her cheating on me numerous amount of times.
So wait, you submitted evidence to the court.
Yes, Your Honor.
Step forward so I can have you explain this evidence you have in the monitor.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, as you can plainly see, her and her friend was in the bathroom and he had his pants down.
Ow, that's one hell of an accusation. Mr. Redmond says that he caught Ms. Peterson was with one of her friends trying to cheat on him, and the moment he walked in on them, the guy tried to pull up his pants as quickly as he could. I can't wait to hear what Ms. Peterson has to say about that accusation.
Your Honor, when I got home, it was a tall, dark-skinned man walking out of my apartment.
That is not true, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, do you know anyone that looks like that?
No, Your Honor, I really don't. In his mind, I was with everybody.
So you're saying he just constantly accuses you?
Yes, ma'am.
Man, it's almost as if Mr. Redmond was ready to catch her every time she cheated on him. Having a tape recorder in the air vent of his house is just insane. Oh well, he shows more evidence to the judge and Ms. Peterson says that it's all a lie.
All right, Mr. Redmond, you have one more picture. What is this?
I went to Miss Patterson's workplace. But at this point in time, at her job, the front people told me where she was at, how to find her location. I went back there, find the location that they told me to go to.
Okay.
I observed Miss Patterson.
At this point, Mr. Redmond has to be making up all these scenarios. There is no way he could have caught her in the act of cheating on him this many times. Come on, Ms. Peterson could honestly be right. Maybe it's all made up in his head.
When we was in her hometown, I creeped up on her at her family's house. When I got there, Your Honor, I went round the back where they usually be, and I observed Miss Patterson drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, sitting on another man's lap.
Believe me, that's enough grounds to end any marriage, if you ask me. Everything he says he has something new to tell the judge, it always begins with him sneaking up on Ms. Peterson and catching her with another man. Talk about a delusional man. He checks the box with ease.
I was so furious with Miss Patterson. When we left her hometown, I slept on the couch. I wouldn't even sleep in the bed with her.
So you were not sleeping together?
We were.
That's why you feel like you're not
Yes, ma'am.
That's not true, Your Honor. That's not. The reason why he ain't sleeping in the bed, he was never at home.
Is it really surprising that they are divorced? I mean, look at them rant and argue with each other like kids. It's a shock that their marriage lasted this long, trust me. Oh well, Mr. Redmond says that he believes he isn't the father of her second daughter because they were not having sex.
So when did he really start denying the children?
When I left him. I left him in 2000.
Were you also there for the entire birth while you had this doubt? Were you there for all of the appointments, the birth, everything?
Yes, Your Honor.
That definitely gives a new dynamic to the whole situation. Ms. Patterson says that Mr. Redmond started denying the children when she left their marriage. Who knows? Maybe he couldn't handle the split, and his coping mechanism was to deny the kids.
What kind of relationship have you had with Mr. Redmond?
Nothing at all.
Really?
Yes.
And you've been told this is your father?
Yes, I have been told that he was my father, but this is my father right here because she has been here my whole entire life.
And so you have no relationship with Mr. Redmond?
Not at all.
How about you, Kaisha?
No, ma'am.
This is a man who can't even present proper evidence in the courtroom. It's no shock that the girls have no relationship with him at all. They say that they only remember him when they went to visit him in his mother's house. Very disappointing on his part.
Like, they don't feel your protection.
First of all, Your Honor, the kids were kidnapped from me when they were in my custody. She came back and stole the kids from me. She kept them away from me so that I would not be able to have a relationship with these kids. Then I found out when
Why is you sitting here lying?
I don't think you need me to tell you that she hates Mr. Redmond. She's hurt and heartbroken because when they needed him the most, he denied them. And now he claims that their mother stole them from him.
You can't even look this young woman in the eye. I mean, this is a young girl that could potentially be your biological child, and you're not even looking at her. When she's speaking, when she's expressing the deepest part of herself and her emotions and how she feels. What is going on with you?
Oh my goodness, this man must have been a clown during his high school days. How does he want them to respect him when he can't do anything for them? At this point, I think we need to see the results. Enough of his silly excuses.
Mr. Redmond, you are the father. Mr. Redmond, you are the father.
And you need to apologize to
he don't need him.
He need to apologize.
He don't need
No,
him.
seriously, apologize.
I do apologize.
Thank you.
And I don't care.
I try to have a relationship with them, Your Honor, but they won't stay around. They say I'm too mean, I'm too strict, I'm too this, I'm too that.
Kaisha, is there something you'd like to say to your father?
Ms. Adams claims that her son is on the verge of going to prison because the defendant, Ms. Williams, claims that her son has paid child support. Ms. Adams is in court on her son's behalf to prove that he is not the man who fathered Ms. Williams' child. Here is how the case started.
Ms. Adams, you say you're here today regarding a matter of extreme urgency.
Yes.
Now, your son, Mr. Adams, is joining us via satellite from Flint, Michigan, from leaving your home state.
Believe me when I tell you, this is going to be one crazy case. It's honestly mind-blowing that Ms. Adams' son is not allowed to be in the courtroom. I wonder how he found himself in such a messy and complicated situation.
Enlighten me on this situation. You were in a relationship with Ms. Williams?
No, I really wouldn't call it no relationship. You know, I met her at a house party. She tried to have sex with me on the first date, so that was a judge of character right there.
Aha! I just had that feeling that Mr. Adams could not be the only one she was sleeping with. They both agree that it was not and was never going to be a committed relationship. Ms. Williams also admits that at the time, she slept with other people without using protection.
Yes. What happened? Me and my ex was still trying to make things work and we were still messing around. You know, me and my ex both thought like, oh, you're the father or whatever. So we just went through that whole year. I was pregnant.
Wow. Seems like she really wanted the baby to belong to her ex. Apparently, she admits that when she found out she was pregnant, she never told Mr. Adams. At the time, she was working out things with her ex and she wanted it to be his baby. It was after she had a DNA test done and realized it was not the father that she reached out to Mr. Adams.
Port, I don't want any of this, but it got to the point where you needed help and so you went to the state.
Yes.
And then during that time, you had to name who the potential father could be.
Yes, I did.
And you gave the state.
Like we always say, you miss your court date, you deal with the consequences. Ms. Williams says that things got so bad and she needed help with the baby. She listed his name as the father, and when he failed to show up on court, he was made the father by default.
But other conversation came about in my very own living room while I was in the kitchen, and she and my daughter was talking, and the question came up again, was my son the father of the child?
I can't be the only one who thinks Ms. Adams is telling the truth. She tells the judge that there were two different situations where Ms. Williams admitted to her that Mr. Adams was not the father of the child. But of course, Ms. Williams denies it all. Could she be lying?
She had her ex-boyfriend tested. She basically was trying to come at me like I was the father.
That's a lie. I said possibility.
She said it was a strong possibility.
You didn't believe that?
No, Your Honor.
I honestly blame Ms. Williams for all of this. Mr. Adams explains to the judge that she also told him to his face that he was not the father of the child. She even named the baby after her ex-boyfriend. She should have been sure who the father was before she started pointing fingers.
He had a hangover. He couldn't get up. He was just basically being lazy.
No, my son was in jail. My son was in jail.
No, this was before he had got locked up. I asked him twice.
He was in jail.
Why didn't you take the test?
I had the papers sent to jail to have the DNA testing.
Nah, that's on him. How can his excuse for missing the DNA test ordered by the court be the fact that he was hungover and couldn't get out of bed? Is he for real? He better pray that he doesn't end up being the father of the child.
So I gave them my name proud, like, you know, I'm Lassidere Adams. You know, I ain't think I had no warrant. Come to find out, he come back to me like, oh, Mr. Adams got a warrant for child support. I'm like, what? And next thing you know, he put me in the back of the car in handcuffs.
Ouch! That definitely had to have hurt. But Ms. Williams isn't wrong, though. She had sex with Mr. Adams and not the mother. His failing to show up for the DNA test is totally his fault. He should have known better. But Judge Lauren needs to get in there before these women rip each other apart.
You standing in court and don't know who your child's father is. Already had one man tested, asking the next man to get tested, but he too hungover to show up. Now you got a child support case where, look, if he's sitting up there going to jail over a child that's not even his, potentially, that's his fault because he didn't show.
And that's how you know a mother who just wants the best for her child. Ms. Williams doesn't care about how anyone feels. All she wants is to find out who the father of her child is. Well, let's get to the results. Let's see if Mr. Adams is going to be spending the rest of his life behind bars.
That Mr. Adams is not the father. Mr. Adams, you done come to the wrong courtroom clowning.
Judge Lauren got super mad in this episode about Ms. Moiety being left to take care of her little baby girl all alone. Judge Lauren was really in no mood to smile. The whole situation began like this.
Ms. Moyette, you're here in court today to prove that Mr. Lester, a man who is 20 years older than you, is the father of your 3-month-old daughter, Nyla Moyette.
Things were never all lovey-dovey between Mr. Lester and Ms. Moyette. When she found out she was pregnant, she told Mr. Lester. But was he excited about the baby? Hell no. It was like the baby was going to spoil all the fun he was having.
When you told him about the pregnancy, what was his reaction, Ms. Moyette?
He was not happy. I actually planned this pregnancy. I went over his house the day I was ovulating, okay? And I let him know, babe, I'm ovulating. I want to have a baby. We did nothing.
That is not true.
Yeah, we did nothing to prevent Nyla. And to make matters even worse, since I've had Nyla,
Mr. Lester wasn't going to allow her to state the obvious, so he jumped in and called her a big fat liar. He said that all she said was in her head, and they hadn't been intimate in a really long while. Well, I sure saw that coming. He denied it all. But the revelations from Ms. Moyette will leave you in so much shock.
That's a lie. Now, it's not, Yana, we've had sex since I've had my daughter 5 times. I've counted.
That's not true.
Well, she's only 3 months old.
Exactly.
Mr. Lester, you're saying that this is all in her mind?
Yes, Your Honor. It is definitely in her mind.
Mr. Lester isn't being nice to Ms. Moyette at all in the courtroom. He kept emphasizing that he didn't want a relationship with Ms. Moyette. He said he just wanted to have a good time. But Ms. Moyette was insistent on having a baby for him. Now, who's telling the truth? I'm pretty confused at this point.
A sexual relationship without being in a committed relationship. I did want that, and she agreed to it.
I agreed to it in the beginning, and when he told me that he loved me, it opened me up to the fact that, well, maybe it could be. I mean, my background is not the best.
It was war in that courtroom. The things that were coming out of both Mr. Lester's and Ms. Moyette's mouths were just very unbelievable. Even Judge Lauren was very confused, as she couldn't make sense of it.
You're 45 years old.
Absolutely.
So when a woman says to you, I want to have your baby, and you say, no, I really don't want you to, and you're still having sex without protecting yourself, you're setting yourself up.
I've only had sex with Iris for 5 times.
That's a lie. You've never used a condom. Now, with the girls that he's cheating on me with.
Mr. Lester, who never wanted to have a kid with Ms. Moyette, stated that he had doubts about the baby being his. Was he being delusional? I mean, he was basically sleeping with Ms. Moyette without using protection. Trust me, people, these two are nuts.
Boyfriend that's better than me, and I asked her, well, why are you calling me tonight? Her response to me was, I could do both of y'all. I could do him Monday and do you Tuesday.
Yana, that's a lie. Let me tell you, that's a lie, Yana.
Well, it's finally time to uncover the truth after so many lies and deceptions. The day of reckoning is finally here, so take a deep breath because the truth is finally going to be exposed.
Mr. Lester, you are Nyla's father.
Yes!
Yes!